Oh, I'm past my time. We gotta get started here. I'll call everybody to order. First order of business, we'll get Ron to do a roll call.
Okay, Mr. Hall,
Yes, I'm
Mr.
here.
Bakley,
Here.
Mr. Dixon,
Here.
Mr. Artizone,
Here.
Mr. Carter,
Yes.
Mr. Holsinger, Mr. Postles, Mr. Shilo, Ms. Smith. 2, 3, 4. And we do have a quorum.
Oh, we're good. 5 and 9. That's better than nothing. Okay, first order of business is the approval of minutes for the 31st of August meeting. Again, these get sent to us by email. Are there any additions, corrections, comments? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, all those, oh, well, yeah, okay. Are you getting these all wrong?
Yep.
I'm not screwing you up, am I?
Nope.
Okay, good. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carried. Public comment?
Regis Sale, 202 Spruce Street in Hollidaysburg. I've not been asked to speak about this, but I feel compelled to speak on behalf of Gaisport residents. For the past 30 years, there's been an increase in the frequency and severity of flooding in that area. They're shoveling silt out of their basements, replacing furnaces and hot water heaters. One case, they did all this. 2 weeks later, another flood, do it all over again. It's hard to believe how disappointing that would be. We have one case that I know of. The water flows through his front door. His first floor. His basement's completely full. Front floor, first floor flooded also. Mostly, this neighborhood is elderly residents who have lived, many of them have lived there their entire life. And each time that they have to replace all this stuff, their flood insurance premium goes up. And it's getting to the point where they don't know whether they're going to be able to afford the insurance, and they don't know what to do after that. Okay? They've been told time and time again that's just because you live in a floodplain, and they do. But the floodplain is a floodplain because of the river, not because of the mini ditch, which has increased in size over the last 30 years. They've been flooded twice by the river, once in 1936 and once in 1972. They can tolerate 2 in the last 100 years. But they can't tolerate 2-3 times a summer. Okay? And the flooding's not from the river, and that's what the floodplain was for. It's been modified just in recent years because of the increased flow from the mini ditch, but that's all caused from development. Okay? Originally, the mini ditch was dry in the summertime and only flowed in the spring and the fall. But it's development upstream that has caused the problem. Many of the developers do not follow the stormwater regulations, and that's understandable. Stormwater facilities are unseen. So when someone comes in to buy, they don't worry about the stormwater that's underneath. They worry about how nice the place looks, and that's where the developer will spend his money. Okay? And the problem then is given downstream, and it's downstream the whole way to the Chesapeake Bay. And municipalities who have not been real strict on the stormwater are now paying a penalty, because now MS4 is requiring them to take the silt, which is caused from flooding, out, and we're spending a lot of money on going to get more expensive, I think, not less expensive over the next number of years.
Okay.
One of the problems I see is that the developer has several computer programs to estimate the size of stormwater facilities. So they take only a few minutes for them to run the computer 3 or 4 different times with 3 or 4 different programs. And what are they going to pick? They're always going to pick the one that has the smallest required stormwater facility.
All right, I guess the issue is, I'm not sure how that fits in here.
Oh,
I get, and this
okay.
is kind of not our bag.
I understand that. I'll come to that in a few minutes. I wanted to make sure you understood what was happening with these people. Okay? And you can tell these people that stormwater regulations will ensure that they don't get more flooding.
But this is a Hollidaysburg borough issue, not right now. It's not our issue. That's what I'm telling you.
Well, it will be. It's coming up. That's why I'm worried. And I wanted you guys to be informed before it came up, thoroughly informed, so when it comes up, you can make hopefully a wiser decision. Okay? So there's the group, the families there, are now focusing on mitigation. And they filled the town hall in Hollidaysburg and made some progress. Stephen McGraw has applied for a grant to build a stormwater facility. The girls at the Conservation District have come aboard, and CDBG funds have been delegated to a program for this. Right now, the Stool Farm, which is immediately behind this neighborhood and upstream, is up for sale. A developer who is looking to purchase this, he has said right away, first thing he wants to do is to change the zoning. They'll come here to change the zoning. And that's my concern. And right now it's a traditional neighborhood development. This has been studied years ago, and it was decided that that this traditional neighborhood development would have the least impact upon the neighborhood. But to change that is going to have a bigger impact on these people. And it would be a disservice to these people to change the zoning. And we're going to ask you that when they come, that you consider the people in Gaysport and the flooding issue before you make a decision on changing the zoning. I thank you.
All right. Again, this appears to be a Hollidaysburg borough issue, not something, even when it comes down to a zoning change. All we're going to look at that level is whether the zoning change, the request by the municipality, is consistent with what the county plan is. And so that remains to be seen. I mean, we can basically say we don't know whether it's a good idea or not, but that carries no real weight.
Well,
okay.
Our experience is that you make a recommendation, and then the Hollidaysburg Borough Planning Commission, 98% of the time, follows your recommendation.
Well, we will. I guess the only thing we can do at this point is wait and see what comes in. But I'm not.
Right.
Sure.
I just wanted you to be fully informed of what some of the issues were before it comes up.
Okay. All right. Are there any other public comments at this point? If there are not, I'll move on. Bruce, I guess it's your turn because I think you probably have another meeting to go to.
Actually, today I don't, because the other two commissioners are both at other meetings for the morning, so commissioners' meeting is canceled today.
So we've got you for the whole time.
You do. Last time you did this, you ended early for once, so, which works too. Just a couple of things. Obviously, we're continuing on this our budget liaison meetings, which end as of tomorrow. Dave had his, what was that, week before last,
I
Dave?
think it was, yeah.
And which went very smoothly. And the other thing that is of interest as we talk about broadband expansion is the board has given an extension to Crow's Nest on the one project which we've been funding from American Rescue Plan funds. When this project's done, it will provide or improve service to roughly 1,700 households or businesses. So it just is, I think their initial scheduling was, I thought it was aggressive when they did it. It was aggressive.
Yeah.
That's about it for me, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, very good. I guess we can move on. It's now the Mackenzie show, and we're down to the development applications, and it looks like we've got 4 that require review by the board. And I will let Jamie Mackenzie get started.
Okay. So this first development is for the construction of a new 20,000 square foot storage warehouse on the existing Gardeners Candies facility campus in Tyrone Borough, to be utilized for storing ingredients and finished products. Additional improvements to the site include paved access drives, concrete pads for loading and unloading, and stormwater management facilities. Access to the proposed storage building will be through 2 paved drives extending from the existing facility entrance off of Adams Avenue to the concrete loading docks at either entrance of the proposed facility. The northwestern loading dock, which is right here, has a 12-foot wide paved drive aisle with a 17 by 30-foot concrete loading area, and that's suitable for vans and box trucks only, and there will be signage indicating that. And then the developer specifies that the eastern dock here would be utilized or would utilize the existing ingress and egress that trucks already use for loading and unloading to the site. No additional parking is proposed at the site. While existing parking facilities are incorporated at the site already, the developer should ensure that if the proposed facility would warrant hiring additional staff, that the parking at the site does meet Tyrone Borough's requirements for developments of that size. The existing parking was not included with the plan. Environmentally, our review revealed prime ag soils and the presence of the 100-year floodplain on portions of the site, but because no development is proposed in the floodplain and because the land is already developed for industrial purposes, we do not anticipate any concerns or environmental concerns with regard to the proposal. It's located in the South Bald Eagle Creek watershed. The plan includes the addition of underground detention sumps and combination trenches, which should help to offset any potential runoff as a result of the development.
Is this the existing building area back in here?
Yes, that's
Okay.
the parking for the existing building.
Okay.
The full plan set did not include any of the information for the existing building beyond what you can see here for this Y. It truly cuts off there. So I don't have any of the parking information for the existing building, but I did count. They have 2 large parking lots. I don't know their employment numbers. I did include in the letter that, as I said, if there was going to be additional hires for this expansion, then their parking should reflect that.
Mackenzie, can you please clarify, is stormwater retention required by the borough of Tyrone, or is it required by state regulation? Well, you know the answer to that question. I don't want to put you on the spot, but
The
Wait, I'm
specifics would
sorry.
be local.
it's specific to,
The specifics of what's required would be local.
Yeah,
be local.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand what you were asking.
So it's not like the state has stormwater retention regulations, that's a local ordinance, that's a local requirement.
Correct.
The state has what you might call expectations, but the requirements are local.
I see. Okay.
There are some questions in that area about, I know from that where how much drainage there is, because this is up pretty much on the top of the hill. And there has been drainage issues when you go further down that industrial site towards the railroad tracks and the drainage down into that area. They've had some issues where they've had to open up he's done drainage ditches and things to help the neighbors out in that one little corner down there. But this is maybe far enough away that it's way up. I'm not sure whether the drainage is this way towards Adams Avenue or whether it's towards down the hill. It's just they may be on the top of the ridge enough that it's not an issue.
There's a stream that flows right here. It's something run. I can't remember.
Yeah, that's
And it flows this-
I can't.
this northwest.
Used to be that was the old. None of us are old enough to remember or about there, but there was an athletic park that was back there in the 30s that was part of the railroad. And there was a swimming pool, a golf course, baseball fields, the whole 9 yards in that whole site that runs all the way back from there back past where, if you're familiar with that, where Chicago Rivet is and back into that area that had. And the trailer park was actually part of the golf course that's out there. So that all disappeared back in the 30s, and it disappeared because the swimming pool was primarily fed by that stream, and that was the sanitation for the swimming pool. So, but it's just always been a question. It's always been this area. That's always been the industrial park in Tyrone. The question is where the drainage on the lower ends of it goes. But that is almost out on to Adams Avenue. It's almost, if you look at it's sitting right almost from the looks of it.
Yes, this is.
Adams Avenue's right there. And it's the first turn off. You come off, you're going to make you're going to be into their storage. All right, do we want to, if there are no further questions, are there any additions or anything anyone wants to ask about that? If not, I'll entertain a motion to accept the staff recommendation for item 5 on the agenda.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carried. Moving right along.
Number 6 on the agenda is for 3417 Route 764 LLC. This is in Allegheny Township. The address is the same as the business name. And this is the former site of Altoona Terminals Corp. This proposal is for the construction of a 2,500 square foot office building with a 4,000 square foot garage space for truck equipment and parking. And this is on an existing gravel lot, as I said previously, Altoona Terminals. Additional site improvements include paved parking, stormwater management, and grading for a possible future 3,500 square foot garage expansion, which I put here. They included the garage expansion with the stormwater management and with the proposal, but the narrative only included grading for the first phase, and that the expansion was only possible. Access to the site, access to the site is from a 24-foot wide paved bidirectional drive aisle that opens onto the proposed paved parking area. A concrete walkway is proposed along the front of the office building. However, no additional sidewalks are proposed along 6th Avenue. Generally, we would encourage the inclusion of sidewalks with new developments along a major corridor. However, given the absence of sidewalks in the immediate vicinity, we did not necessarily oppose the admission. However, if feasible, we did recommend the consideration of including sidewalks along the front of the property in order to better provide for pedestrian safety. Proposed parking for the site is outlined here in yellow, and that includes 10 paved vehicle parking spaces, including an ADA accessible space, as well as 4 gravel parking spaces that you can see here. And this should be adequate for the nature of the development, which is just it is a trucking business. Landscaping plans for the site included various shrubbery around the perimeter of the building, which should make for an attractive site. No lighting plans or photometrics were included with the plan. However, the developer should ensure that any lighting included or installed at the site would be shielded and directed in a manner to prevent glare onto neighboring properties and roadways. Environmentally, there were prime agricultural soils throughout the property. However, because the site is already developed for industrial purposes, currently it's just a gravel lot. No potential farmland would be converted or developed as a result of the proposal. It's located within the Beaver Dam branch of the Juniata River watershed. Proposed stormwater management improvements included reseeding the existing gravel lot here. This is all gravel, and the stormwater management included, like I said, reseeding this to be grass lawn, which should help to mitigate potential negative impacts on the watershed. I did include that the developer should ensure that all stormwater management facilities are designed in accordance with Allegheny Township's stormwater management regulations. And that's all I have for 3417 Route 764 LLC in Allegheny Township.
Okay. Are there any questions?
In Allegheny Township, do they require that the parking lots be paved?
They do not for the nature of this business. This parking area with there are 10 paved parking spaces here, and then this area in front of the garage is gravel, and there were areas for truck parking and additional parking here. This is all gravel, and this is the reseeded grass, but this here was the included paved parking.
My concern is gravel migrates. And when you have a storm facility, that gravel will travel into that storm system and cause problems. You know, in the city of Altoona, we always required if you had any kind of parking where tires meet the ground had to be paved because of that one big reason of gravel migrating. The gravel will migrate out onto 6th Avenue as well. And as far as the sidewalk goes, I really don't care that there's no sidewalks on either side. We should require it.
I did recommend it. I can only make recommendations, but I did include the recommendation to include sidewalks if possible. And for the existing, I'm going to try to go back to show the existing topography. This building, these two buildings have been, or not this building, but this building here has been since demolished. But this existing topography is gravel. A good portion of this will be paved, and this all will be reseeded as grass. The only gravel will be right in front of the garage, and that will be for entering. It's a trucking business, as I said, so I am assuming will be for storing and servicing the trucks and equipment. But as far as additional stormwater management, they did not include any details other than just the reseeding of the lot, so I can, if there's comments that you guys need to make about concerns for
Well, I think, you know,
stormwater.
we need to know what the stormwater is. You know, I mean, I really think that we should require them to provide us with some sort of stormwater information.
Well, let me ask this question. Does each township and each municipality, are they required to have a civil engineer as part of their administration or a contracted civil? They're not.
They're not required, I think they
They're not
all do,
required.
but they
And
all
so-
do.
So I guess this township over here can have no loose stormwater regulations. This goes back to the original, to the public comments. This township over here can have very loose stormwater regulations and they can have all kinds of runoff. And this township over here can have very specific, you know, requirements that are controlled and designed by engineers. But the floodwaters, you know, can come from 2 or 3 townships over and flood other communities. I wonder how that gets resolved. Like how does Hollidaysburg, for example, deal with stormwater runoff that may be coming from, you know, flooding that's caused by 2 or 3 townships down the way, upriver, upstream? How I'm just asking these questions rhetorically, I guess, to figure out like how all this is working, because some, you know, Hollidaysburg itself, they can make stormwater regulations which prevents, you know, flooding, but that flooding is going downstream to other communities. Who's keeping Hollidaysburg from getting flooded by other communities?
That's been an issue because I can know that the prime example in our area, in Tyrone area, is with the Little Juniata River and the development upstream. It all ends up, and it's impacted areas, built businesses that are right along the river. The thing I've had about floodwater control or flood management is that these stormwater management plans, you know, they have we have, and I speak as an engineer here, that some of this is you have all these design tools that let you design these things on a piece of paper, and you come up with a stormwater design, a management plan, and you build it, but there's never any verification of whether that plan is working as advertised. How do you do that? And so that's been an issue. One of the concerns I've had is that you can do all this design on paper, but does it function as advertised?
Well, it's supposed to.
It's supposed to. That's
what
the thing.
engineering's all about. And like in this particular case, for example, there should be an engineer involved in it, because basically what you're saying, it makes sense. Okay, they're basically cutting. They're going to get rid of half that gravel parking lot and only keep a small portion of. They're going to reseed it, so they're actually reducing their impervious surface.
Right.
But somebody should be calculating that. There should be some kind of there's engineering principles here that say like, okay, you can do this because, you know, you can put in more concrete now because you're cutting the impervious surface in half, and you're not creating any additional stormwater runoff. All this stuff can be done with calculations and engineering. And as long as the developer does what is required, then it should be good. And so that's why I'm asking, like, is there any kind of state regulation, or is it like, for example, with the Army Corps of Engineers limit, you know, the amount of sediments and runoff and everything into a stream, and how, you know, who is controlling that?
My concern has been not what you're saying is that, you know, I can do all the engineering, and I did this for 30-some years, not this particular thing, but the thing is that my reaction has been that, okay, you can, as you say, the calculations are there, their standards are supposed to be able to do them. The question is, to my knowledge, I'm not sure I've seen any data, anything anywhere on stormwater management that says these things work as advertised.
I trust the engineer.
I don't. I've been an engineer long enough that I don't trust myself on some of this stuff. You know, that I know that it's all basic.
It's all theory.
It's theory. It's the old trust but verify type thing. You know.
I think that this has all been calculated.
And I'm not sure that
figured out in advance, and engineers do what they're supposed to do, and people, if everybody follows it's not that complicated a science. I mean, it's all done with rainwater, they know exactly how much flow goes across grass versus how much goes across concrete. This is all science. It can be done. It is done. It's working in other places. This is like I consider this a road development. Okay, it's like these people are doing some things out here, but there's no checks and balances. They could build it. If they built a giant gravel parking lot, someone could say like, oh, it's just gravel and all the water's going into the ground. But engineering-wise, you would understand that there's more flow going across gravel than there is going across grass. So there's more runoff. If they added more gravel parking space, the water's going to run off faster into the stream. So, I mean, in my mind, there should be, I don't want to say state regulation, but there should be regulations all the way down the line upstream for, you know, developments that prevent downstream, you know, communities from getting flooded. I think this is done in other places. I don't know why it's not done in Pennsylvania.
No, they wouldn't trigger stormwater here because he's removing impervious cover. That's probably why there's no stormwater with this.
Yeah,
The impervious cover is actually going down, so it probably did not
But
trigger the ordinance.
how is it graded?
I don't know, that's the problem, but he probably didn't trigger the stormwater because the impervious cover was reduced, so they didn't trigger stormwater.
Well, you can reduce the impervious cover, but if the drainage is going the wrong
Right.
way.
I understand that,
Well,
but yeah, that's a, yeah.
From my
We're dealing with regulations based on the 1990s model.
All right, I
It's
guess
never been updated.
we're basically into philosophy now, and I'm not
Yeah.
sure. My concern had been that on all these stormwater management plans, I've seen engineers do all the development and all the design work and all the things they put out, but I've never seen anything that says, yeah, after we built this thing, it's working as advertised.
I think you can find things. You can find reports that.
Okay, I'd be happy to see those because that's been my.
They'll tell you that.
They're
None of
all,
it's proven.
it's
Really?
because
Yeah.
it's
the
one of
first thing
these
they tell
things
you.
is unless you have
It hasn't been long enough.
Right.
I mean, usually these things take years and
Years,
years
decades, yeah.
Yeah.
before you actually say, oh, we
Well, and
screwed
the
up.
other thing is it takes if some it's equality like you said, if it's water in versus water out. But it takes, if you're going to measure the water out, it takes a point source or someplace where you can actually get a measurement and quantify that. If it's a big area like this where it can run off all the surface area around the edges, how do you verify that? And that's been one of the things I've looked at. I've said this before. You know, I've seen all these underground tanks or other things they put under parking lots and all these things, and they've got all this theory behind it, but to me, nobody's ever looked at it and never taken a measurement on the downstream side that says it works.
I disagree. I think they have. That's
And
why
that's
where these regulations came from.
Okay, let's move on. Can we have I guess the thing, and the sidewalks are kind of, the sidewalks are kind of the same issue. To me, it's one of these things that's kind of a catch-22. If we say we're recommending sidewalks, but then they're going to waive them because there's no sidewalks in the area, that's kind of like a revolving door, because then they say, well, okay, there's no sidewalks, we don't have to build sidewalks, but somebody has to start somewhere.
All right, so we probably need to be more clear about things like this where we don't really have anything on our comprehensive plan that says this is an active pedestrian zone. Obviously, this is not an active pedestrian zone. Well, maybe there is. There's residents next to it. I don't know.
This is across the street from the Sugar Run Plaza, if
Oh.
you're familiar with that.
Okay, so
But so there is the issue of when it comes down to sidewalks, it's kind of one of these things, like I said, it's kind of a revolving door type thing. If you recommend sidewalks, and the builder says, well, there's no other sidewalks in the area, so I'm going to get a waiver, that's kind of self-defeating because you may never get sidewalks in. Because the next guy will say the same thing. It's, oh, nobody's putting sidewalks in, why do I have to put sidewalks in?
I think that what we do, we go after every property and say that it needs sidewalks. But what we should have is a plan, a plan that says this is an active pedestrian area, sidewalks should be here. This is an industrial zone. We don't really need sidewalks there. I mean, we should have like something, so when we look at the plan, we can make a legitimate recommendation, whereas here it's like, I understand like Plank Road, okay, Plank Road's a good example, like, nobody ever required sidewalks there, but little by little they're being put in, but that's an active pedestrian area, it's in the middle of an active, zone. We should have a trigger that says, this is pedestrian area, sidewalk should be here, this is not. This is country, this is, highway, this is, this isn't. I mean, I agree that people should be able to access everything, they should be able to walk around and we should have a total pedestrian, oriented world, where we can walk everywhere, but we can't, it's not practical to do it everywhere. So I think that Mackenzie's suggestion that we would not be an objection to them eliminating the sidewalks is a good suggestion. It's like, do they really, really need sidewalks there?
Okay.
But maybe we shouldn't be even, my point is maybe we shouldn't even be asking for them at this place.
I guess just in the interest of moving ahead and getting something done, is there any other discussion or questions about this item, or can I ask for a motion to approve the staff recommendations and actions concerning item 6 on the agenda? Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? I think there's a fair amount of not philosophical issues, but other issues that are valid that need to be addressed, but I'm not, on individual projects, they kind of fall through the cracks, unfortunately. So moving right ahead.
Okay. Number 7 on your agenda is for European Motor Cars new garage in Blair Township. This is located along Chimney Rocks Road, and this is for the construction of a 4,400 square foot auto repair garage owned by Francis and Deborah Knabb. This is the current site of European Motor Cars, which is located right here. Additional site improvements also include gravel parking and stormwater management. Access to the proposed site access to the proposed garage will continue to be through the existing 10-foot wide gravel drive off of Chimney Rocks Road. I can go back and show you the aerial. This is the only entry and exit point to the property, and that remains current with this plan. Parking at the site appears to consist of 6 additional gravel parking spaces, in addition to the existing gravel parking that's available, which appears to be adequate for the nature of the development because it's a auto repair garage where it appears people drop off their motorbikes or their vehicles and have them repaired. No landscaping or lighting plans were included. However, the developer should ensure that any landscaping included at the site is in accordance with Blair Township's regulation, as well as any lighting installed because it is a residential area or there's other residences around. Any lighting installed should be shielded and directed in a manner to prevent glare onto existing residents and existing properties and roadways. The site is located within the Beaver Dam branch of the Juniata River watershed. Proposed stormwater management includes underground infiltration and detention basins for the, if you can see here, this area, sorry, this is not working super well. This area will remain as gravel, and the proposed repair garage will be right here. So the stormwater management will be there as well. And no environmental concerns for the site, not located within the floodplain, no wetlands, steep slopes, or ag soils. And that's all I have for this one.
Is this a private residence?
It is. The homeowner lives here and operates the business out of this garage.
Okay, so it's his business. It's on,
Correct.
okay. And so this driveway,
Would you like me to go back to the aerial?
well, that driveway, I guess there's no issue that it's not a flag lot or it's not separated or anything. It's just all it's all one big lot.
Correct.
Okay. And he's building, essentially, he's expanding his business on his back lot, and that's basically what he's.
Correct.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Are there any questions or? If there are no questions, I'll entertain a motion to approve the staff actions and recommendations for item 7 on the agenda.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carried. Moving on.
Okay. Number 8 on your agenda is for the Sarah Furnace Estate redevelopment, and this is located in Greenfield Township. The property is currently owned by Quarry Road LLC. The location is, if you're not familiar, this is Dunnings Highway and Quarry Road right here. The developer for this site is Sheets, and the plan is to convert this barn here into a private meeting and event space for Sheets employees and add a 6,600 square foot addition for culinary preparation as well as an ADA accessible entrance, and to convert the existing mansion here into a bed and breakfast also for out-of-town Sheets staff. The other outbuildings that are on the site are currently remaining in the plan. There's a lot here, so I'll go over it all. So, as I said, this proposal is for the redevelopment of the historic Sarah Furnace Estate, and additional improvements at the site include paved parking, walking paths, and stormwater management facilities. Included with the addition, the 6,600 square foot addition to the barn for the meeting and event space, they also included a rooftop deck, outdoor pavilion here, as well as some outdoor pavilions that you can see throughout the site. And I believe that's it. Okay. Demolition of existing fencing, some landscaping, and only one of the small outbuildings are proposed prior to the redevelopment, but access to the site will be through a new 26-foot wide paved bidirectional drive here off of Dunnings Highway with 20 to 25-foot wide drive aisles throughout. So this is how you would access the meeting and event space here, right off of Dunnings Highway, and these are all bidirectional throughout. Additional access to the site, and this would be for the bed and breakfast, or you could still access the meeting site through here, all of the roads connect, would be through a 22-foot wide paved bidirectional drive off of Quarry Road with 20 to 25-foot wide drive aisles throughout as well. Proposed parking for the development is outlined in yellow. That includes 3 separate paved parking spots, or paved parking lots, a 54-foot long shuttle bus parking and loading area, that's right here, and a designated grass overflow parking, which is located here and here. So site plans include 113 paved spaces as well as 5 ADA accessible parking spaces, and the overflow parking proposed in the designated grass areas can hold a capacity of 93 additional cars. Paved 5-foot wide walking paths are proposed throughout the property. As you can see here, that's what all these narrow little paths are. And those should improve connectivity and accessibility throughout the site because they are the paved 5-foot wide ADA recommended paths, but also the nature of the property is very agrarian, it's very historic, so to encourage kind of being outside was the goal here, which is why they included outdoor pavilions, the walking paths, and the landscaping. Landscaping provided for the site included the landscaped infiltration berms and meadow-seeded rain gardens, which are here and here, and as well as various trees and shrubs throughout the site, which should not only make for an attractive site, but improve overall bioretention capacity of the soils. No lighting plan or photometrics. However, the developer should ensure any lighting is shielded in a way to prevent glare onto the roadway. Environmentally, the 100-year floodplain as well as wetlands were found on a portion of the site located here at the rear. I believe you can actually see the wetland delineation in the very top, but that's where the wetlands are. And no development is proposed in areas delineated as floodplain or wetland, so these features should not pose any immediate concern with the development. The site is located within the Frankstown branch of the Juniata watershed. In order to help mitigate the increase in stormwater runoff as a result of the proposal, the developer has proposed the inclusion of the landscaped rain gardens as well as landscaped infiltration berms, which once again should help offset runoff at the site, including or according to the post-construction stormwater management report. Questions?
Is the Pennsylvania Historic Museum Commission involved in this at all?
Not from what I have gathered based on the plan, and I have not seen anything about them. I checked the databases for historic registries for the property, and I don't think the property is in any historic registries, so I don't think they can be take action unless it's like a federally registered, like, historic place. Does that make sense? Like on the national, is it the National Register for Historic Places? Yeah.
There was an archaeological study done on that whole site when they developed the industrial park initially. And there's a booklet that was published. They were required to publish and make public a booklet on all the history, the anthropological history on the site at the time. So it goes back, it has Native American artifacts all the way up to probably something like this. But it was done when when sheets first went out there. So if this was included in that, that would be in that booklet.
Okay.
Are there any further questions or comments? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the staff actions and recommendations for item 8 on the agenda. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carried. Okay, moving right ahead. Item 9 on the agenda is items which were done at the staff level and did not require a formal review like we've just completed. These are items that have been sent to the board members via email for review, questions, comments, etc. that should have been addressed to Mackenzie. So any items that on any of these three items that you have questions about now is the time to ask Mackenzie. if there are no questions, I will entertain a motion to approve the staff actions and recommendations and letters for item 9 of the agenda. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Objections? Motion carried. Okay. Wow. I guess we're moving on, and there are on the municipal clearinghouse issues, there are no items that required review. Oh yeah, we got one down there, I guess, on the bottom. Item 10. You kind of
11.
reversed it. You reversed it. 11. You reversed the issue. You reversed the order. That's all. Normally you do 10 before or 11 before you do 10, but that's all right.
It's a different category.
No, okay, different review. Okay. Again, these are issues that did not rise to the level of needing a full staff level review presented at this meeting. These typically are things that are letters of support, minor changes to ordinances, letters of support for grants, permits, etc. So these again have been sent to the board members via email for your concerns and comments. So are there any questions concerning any of the items listed in item 10 of the agenda by the board members?
For the purpose of the public, could we identify some of these acronyms, or what does NPDES stand for?
National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System.
Which
And
is
that's for, usually if you have for example, some of these are for sewage. If you have a personal sewage system on your property, there has to be a discharge. So that is what the NPDES permits are for. That's what the Logan Township, me Erdley, you can see that's what that would look like. NPDES Water Quality Management Part 2, that's for a single residential sewage treatment plant. Some of the
PWS.
Water supply, public water supply. Sorry, I will include the full names.
It's okay, I just
No, that's good feedback. I will include
none of this
the
applies
names.
to stormwater management though, correct? None of these issues.
There were no issues in the review for any of these. We did receive a full plan set. I'm trying to be very careful how I word this because it's a very large, it is the Logan Boulevard Water Main Relocation Project. They sent us the full plan set for that, for review for that project. That is not the permit that's included on here. That will be on October's agenda. If you would like me to review the full water main plan set for you for the October agenda, I can. This permit is just to, this was just that the project is consistent with our comp plan. This is not our actual review of or an environmental review of the plan. But I can, they did submit the plan set, as I said. It's rather large. If you would like me to review it for the next meeting, I can. If not, typically permit items like that are intergovernmental and stuff that sends out via email. So that is 100% what you think would be most appropriate for reviewing a project like that.
Do you know if does that Logan Township or Logan Boulevard plan include work going on in Hollidaysburg?
So the plan is multi-municipal. It is Hollidaysburg, City of Altoona, Allegheny, I believe Allegheny Township, Frankstown Township, and Logan Township.
Would you happen to know offhand if that plan includes the removal of the street trees on Logan Boulevard going through Hollidaysburg?
As far as I know, there is no actual like landscape removal being done along the whole corridor. The only plans, it's all temporary utility plans that are included. So any temporary utility connections have to be made, or any excavation. There's a lot of exploratory excavation that's suggested for finding utility lines. So that just involves tearing up the lane, like a lane of the road, but nothing involving the median, nothing involving street trees or any of the properties along the roadway.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Are there any questions on any of the items listed in item 10 of the agenda?
Point out Houston Township there, that is the first of potentially several like that. Those standpipes are for fire control. They're basically, you dip the end of the pipe in the river and you have an instant hydrant. That is an element on the action plan in the hazard mitigation plan. Houston Township just happens to be the first one moving forward for it. You'll likely be seeing Metropolitan Clearinghouse grant requests coming through for hazard mitigation money to put those in.
So the request that I received from Houston Township for that project specifically was asking Blair Planning to review the proposed, the dry hydrant project, and just for the same as the rest for comp plan conformity. It's not for a permit or anything, but just to get that letter to say this is consistent with our comprehensive plan. This is mentioned in our hazard mitigation plan as an action of high priority, which it is, and that will help them secure, potentially secure funding for the project moving forward.
Okay. And I assume this is something that we're pursuing grants for? Okay. All right, if there are no further questions, I'll entertain a motion to approve the staff actions and recommendations and letters of support for item 10 of the agenda.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carried. Moving right ahead. Oh boy, here we go.
Okay, number 11 on your agenda is for Woodbury Township's subdivision and land development ordinance update. It looks like it's a massive update. It was an update to the full ordinance, but the update is not extremely robust. Changes to, I'm just going to read what's on the screen. If you have any questions, I did bring the ordinance here, so I can read you what's on here. Updates to Article 1 include the addition of limitations of liability of the township on subdivision and land development plans, essentially saying the township is not liable for the let me read this exactly actually. It says, the grant of a permit or approval of a subdivision and or land development plan shall not constitute a representation, guarantee, or warranty of any kind by the township or by any official or employee thereof as to the advisability or practicability of the proposed use, nor shall any such approval represent any warranty as to the accuracy of the information provided by the developer.
It's a legal disclaimer.
Yeah.
Okay.
We ain't responsible.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just letting you know that was
Just because we approve it doesn't mean it works.
We ain't
So I'm just
responsible.
letting you know that that is an addition, a new addition entirely. That was something that was included that wasn't there
Oh,
previously. Changes to Article 2 include the addition of language and definitions for the definition or the entries of appointing authority, landowner, land development, modifications, preliminary plan and sketch plan, public hearing, subdivider, subdivision, and waiver. Changes to Article 5 include the addition of design standards for stormwater conveyance in driveways and roadways, stormwater damage provisions, and the requirement of erosion and sedimentation plans for all developments involving any grading and excavation. So to answer what you had mentioned earlier with one of the developments, even though there is no, it didn't trigger the stormwater for that site, because there would be grading at the site, it would trigger stormwater in that case with this proposed change. Changes to Article 11 include the addition of grant of modification and waiver information for relief from requirements, and changes to Article 12 include the addition of language on the enforcement of the ordinance, as well as any penalties involving enforcement.
I guess when you're talking about item 5 there, Pat, what I'd like to see is somebody, if they've made changes on design of their stormwater management stuff, I'd like to see somebody down at the end of the driveway with a bucket verifying that it actually worked. It was they got it the way it was supposed
What they want to change the article for stormwater damage provisions, but are they changing the articles for stormwater design?
Yeah, that's.
Or is there already stormwater design requirements? Are they only concerned with stormwater damage?
There are already provisions for stormwater design. This is specifically for driveway and roadway stormwater damage, and sorry, I'm trying to find the entry. This is for private driveways shall not alter the grade or construction of the township road, and shall not allow drainage water to enter the township onto the township road. Yeah, just driveways should be graded in construction in ways so the drainage shouldn't endanger the roadway. That's the language that's included.
Keep your water to
Trying to
yourself.
prevent the damage to the existing
Yeah,
stormwater
it's again, we ain't responsible type thing.
And this included all street construction should be inspected by the township. Contractor shall notify the township at least 10 days prior toward the to the commencement of construction. All drainage facilities and underground utilities within the road right-of-ways should be, I'm so sorry, are to be placed prior to approval of the subgrade. It's highlighted in green and written in black. I'm so sorry, it's so hard to read. But that's what the inclusion was about stormwater protection.
Okay.
It's for the roadways.
Are there any questions or questions concerning item 11 in the agenda about the updates to the agreement? Saldo, let's for Pat and myself and all those. What is that?
Subdivision and land development ordinance.
Okay. Are there
I
any
mean,
other
from my
questions?
perspective, maybe they should be responsible for some of these things, so we should be voting no, that we don't want them to, alleviate their responsibility for certain things, including stormwater damage and things like that. I don't really think I'm for. Are we voting to say that we approve or for this?
Once again, these are for whether or not these are consistent with our comprehensive plan. And generally, we recommend more regulations for stormwater, more regulations because we want to, I guess, better regulate that. So I don't think this is necessarily making it less restrictive, but I do think, as you said, for the township to
Wash their hands of the responsibility, is that consistent with the comprehensive plan? Would we want townships to be more responsible for these types of things? I mean, wouldn't that be more consistent with our comprehensive plan, that townships should take responsibility for their storm?
I don't think that's the point here.
That's not the point.
They're trying to protect themselves from the private sector doing stuff that affects the public sector.
Okay.
And that's why they put that disclaimer in there. because if something would happen, then they would go after the municipality, even though the municipality only approved the subdivision,
Hmm.
you know, and what that person did on their property to cause the damage.
You don't want to sue for
Right.
that property, okay, I understand.
It's-
It's just that I can't.
Okay, if there are no further additions, I will entertain a motion to approve the actions of the staff and the letters for the changes to the Woodbury Township ordinance. So, do I have a motion to that effect? Item 11.
I'll make a motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carried. I guess you get a break now, Mackenzie, and we turn it over to Dave. I guess the one thing, Pat, I'll tell you, you talk about engineering design. Well, all right.
All right. We had a few on altogether Altoona, under kitchen table discussion. They also asked for any final sort of confirmation level for these first couple here. You'll see in your packets a sheet that looks like this, the core values and the planning principles. If you remember a couple months ago, we went through the exercise of the first kitchen table conversation. We had those lists of words and things like that. This is the result of that discussion. And as we go down here, the core values that were identified for the city, if you remember, we had two sets of words there. Legacy values to carry forward. The top three that came out of the kitchen table discussions were resourceful, self-reliant, and gritty. That's the three words that the city saw itself as that we want to carry forward. And then aspirational values, this was the second list of words. If you remember, the lists are actually the same. One was looking back the last 25 years, and the second is looking forward 25 years. So the words that came out, creative and entrepreneurial, sort of balanced right out. Inclusive and bold. So you see a little paragraph there to sort of puts it into prose as to what exactly is going to happen and how we're going to base those values into the plan. So that's what that is. Any comments on those? They're basically just looking for a quick reflection as to whether or not this seems accurate or not. If you have anything to say, that's fine. The other side was the planning principles. You can see it says the rules that govern what we do and help us translate our value into action. So basically these come down to, it's sort of a decision-making framework for the next 10 years for the city. So these are the principles that came out of the discussion. We want to have skin in the game. We want higher standards. This is somewhat new, but it did come out pretty strongly that we're going to embrace risk-taking and taking new approaches. So the same old may start giving way to some new ideas. And then protect and strengthen Altoona's inherent assets. So there's like one thing that we often overlook, we take for granted, is the natural resources around. I've said a number of times when people say there's nothing to do around here, so just look up, you can see all the green space all around, things to do. We have a very large and vibrant art scene in Altoona that people tend to overlook. A city this size and the art scene that we have, it's a little bit growing, and it's something that we really should embrace, take advantage of, and support. So those are the types of assets that are being looked at there. I should ask if there's any comments on those four. And then we move into the big things. This is CZB doing the plan, same group that did our county comp plan. And if you remember the county comp plan, we have, for each county, there's about half a dozen big things that we focus on. So these are the top issues that came out of the kitchen table conversations, out of the steering committee, and just general conversations that have come out. So they broke down into two basic elements. So we'll look at the first one first. We can sneak preview of the second topic so you can see where it's going. But the first one, it was better places and public spaces designed for people. And the three big things under there were stronger, more vibrant downtown. That bubbled up. Safer, more beautiful streets. This is basically speaking to a more modern expectation of what urban form should be. Vision Zero would play into here. We actually have a Vision Zero resolution that guides our own operation. Vision Zero, for those who aren't aware, is the aspiration to reduce fatalities on our highways to zero. Obviously, we have a human factor involved. It's probably, unfortunately, an unattainable goal, but it's a vision, a goal that we have to try to guide our decisions. Frankly, if we're aiming for zero, it's only going to make things safer. But that also includes other things under the Complete Streets umbrella, improving our sidewalks, making sure there's crosswalks, pedestrian heads on the traffic lights, bicycle accommodations, whether it's just simple sharrows, bicycle accommodations at businesses so people can ride their bike to McDonald's and they have a place to lock it that's not blocking the door, not blocking the handicap access, which so often has, because that's the only post that's available in the parking lot. They got to tie their bike to the handicap sign, and then it's in the way of the wheelchair. So making accommodations for that. The city has had provisions for both sidewalks and bicycles on the books for 20 years now, but to make them a little more available, a little more known. I have noticed in the last 2 or 3 years, basically since the pandemic started, that the bicycle facilities that have been installed over the last 20 years are being used a little more frequently, a little more visibly. I had blood work done yesterday, and I do not do well with blood work, and immediately needed food in me for fasting blood work. The earliest appointment they had was 9 o'clock. I went to McDonald's on Plank Road, and there's that little U-shaped bike rack out there. There were 3 bikes parked at 9:30 in the morning.
They all work there.
And they all work there, but it's being used is the point. You know, we do see people using the bicycles now.
The sidewalks are an issue. They're actually recommending that there be a sidewalk replacement program, and that's Never Land in Altoona.
Right.
The property owner is responsible for keeping it clean, but not responsible for repairing it, and the city won't put in the investment into repairing them either.
Yeah.
But this is the public space. So if you look down some of the streets, it's been said a number of times, oh, that neighborhood's blighted, that neighborhood's in bad shape. And if you actually would stand at the beginning of the block and go like this in your vision and block out the public space of the block improves. It's the public space that's actually causing the blight in some cases. Bad curbs, asphalt that's up to the curbs and it's just allowing people to spill their cars onto the sidewalks. The sidewalks themselves are broken down, made of multiple materials. If it's a brick sidewalk or an asphalt sidewalk, you got grass growing up everywhere, that type of thing. And that's some of what causes the deterioration in the neighborhood. And the other thing that bubbled up was first-rate, well-connected parks and trails. This is actually starting to come up countywide, but it did come out very strongly in the city. The city actually has a good park system in place in terms of the sites, where they are, and all like that. It's time to modernize them. They were built on a mid-century model from the last century. There's a lot of baseball and sports orientation, which is not a bad thing. It gets people active. But it's time to reevaluate which sports, which equipment should be in each of those parks. So we really need a baseball field in each one. Those kind of questions need to be asked. So those are those 3. for the first group of big things. The second group is related to it. It looks more at the private sector, but it's kind of the same concepts. The neighborhoods with pride and opportunity, taking the form of healthy neighborhoods becoming even healthier. That involves reinvestment, home ownership that is stable. The city has enjoyed fairly stable home ownership rates over the decades, especially when we compare Altoona to other third-class cities. We tend to be a 1/3, 2/3 split, with the favor being toward the homeowner. A lot of other cities push sometimes 80% rentals. And there's nothing wrong with rentals inherently. The issue tends to come in with rentals is the people come in and they go out and they have no vested interest in the property, and the property slowly deteriorates as a result. Rental properties have their place, of course, they're needed. There are people who either don't want to own a home, can't own a home, and recognize they can't own a home. So we don't want to come down hard on rentals, but we want to make sure we maintain that healthy balance to keep the investment in the city there. Diminishing levels of blight. The volume of property showing signs of distress is falling, and that's an important point to drive home. They did a housing assessment on the entire city. It's going down. The amount of blight in the city is actually starting to go down. And this parenthesis is also important, especially in the visible areas. So the efforts of the city over the last number of decades to get on top of the blight have been successful. Altoona's blight issue is also somewhat unique compared to other third-class cities. We have spot blight here, over here. You might get half a block once in a while, but we don't get the massive full blocks or full neighborhoods of blight like so many other areas have. And part of that is because the city's right on it. When something starts to deteriorate, they get right on it and try to take care of it before the first blighted property spreads to the two on either side, or spreads to the two on either side, and goes out that way. And then, oh, we might have a problem over here, and then it's too late. So we do have diminishing levels of blight. We want to see investment in these blocks, and when one homeowner makes an investment in their property, the same thing starts happening. It starts spreading out. He's taking pride in my property. You know, he did a pretty good job of that, but I might be able to show him up a little bit. And so some of that, keeping up with the Joneses type things happens. And then we have the expansion of appealing and affordable housing options. This, again, has been an issue for quite a number of years. Our county comp plan calls it the missing middle. We can give you all the single-family detached homes you want, and we can give you some high-rise apartment type living over here. If you want a four-class garden apartment, so yeah, let me get back to you on that one. It's just, I'm not going to say there's none out there, but there's so few out there that as soon as one comes up, it's off the market. It happens very quickly. The other issue with the missing middle, there's two concepts around the missing middle. The other side of it is the missing middle income bracket with our housing. You get to about 125,000 up to about 250,000. Again, I'm not going to say there's none of it out there, but as soon as it's on the market, it's gone. You get some areas, and it's true in the city, but there's also areas out in the county where you almost have to know somebody who knows the guy that's going to sell, and you get to him before he gets the thing on the market, and it's sold before it even gets on the market. That's how tight that bracket is. The issue there is now we've got all these people that could afford something in that area, so they now have a choice. They can either buy down or they can go and stretch their finances and make their lives a little miserable by reaching for something they really can't afford. So they tend to buy down, which then puts the people who normally would be able to afford that, forces them down, and it causes a squishing effect in the market, and it has an impact on our lower income housing needs. Also, we also have a tendency that people who can afford higher tend to buy a little lower than what they can. The rule of thumb is you take your annual income, multiply it by 3, and that's the house you can afford. We don't do that here. We tend to buy down a little further, and again, that has that squashing effect, and it pushes the lower income people out of the market. And that gives us a low-income housing problem that could be alleviated if we could get that middle bracket back in there. Again, middle bracket is income and type of housing. It's both. So those were the big things that came out of the first round. And like I said, they're just soliciting any further comments that you may have. If there are, then that's fine too. This will form the basis on how we approach developing the goals and all of that. We have a second kitchen table conversation. And, been asked several times to emphasize the underlined portion in that first paragraph on the right column. These are fictional. They sound very realistic, but they are fictional. Keep that in mind that no matter how real this may sound to some people, this is fictional. So we have part A, and there's a small part B at the end where we rank things a little more deeply. 3 private, for-profit developers are proposing 3 very different, significant projects in the city of Altoona. Over the course of the past 6 weeks, each of the following development proposals has been released to the press with the hope that they will find community support prior to the formal submittal to the appropriate governing bodies. Please review these proposals one at a time. As individuals, describe why you would say yes or no to the proposals. Then as a group, count how many participants said yes or no to each proposal. I'm going to take each one at a time. I'll go through them, decide whether you're going to say yes or no to it, and then why. There is a question on the no. If you answer no, there's a second question as to what would move you to a yes. So we need to think those through. So the first one is infill housing downtown. Private development partnership, they're in Blair and Center counties, looking to capitalize on 3 target markets and seek brand new housing versus downsizing seniors with healthy retirement savings. Second are healthcare professionals at UPMC Altoona, and the third is young couples with 2 incomes and no children. These markets are served by a few rehab buildings in or near downtown and by some new developments tailored to seniors, but there are no newly built housing units for these markets in the downtown core. So here's the project. To fill the gap, the developer has their eye on an elongated parcel along 12th Avenue between 14th and I think that means 15th Streets. The parcel is owned by the Altoona Parking Authority. So this is the long parcel next to Blair Senior Services across from the Gables building. It operates a surface parking lot with spaces for nearly 100 monthly permit holders. It is across the street from the DeForest Downtown Center, 1 block from Heritage Plaza and the Emerging Vitality along the 11th Avenue. ALT Communities would build a 4-story mixed-use building on the site. The upper 3 stories would contain 94 market-rate rental units with no income restrictions, ranging from 1-bedroom, 1.5-bathroom units to 2-bedroom, 2.5-bathroom units. The first level would have covered parking for tenants, a lobby fronting 12th Avenue, and a small retail space at the corner of 14th Street. The total development cost is estimated to be $27.5 million. I'll blow this up just so you can see which one they're talking about here. See the cathedral in the upper center there, and the arrow is the parking lot. That's the, again, the parking authority parking lot. The building right in front of the cathedral there, sorry, it's pixelated, is the Blair Senior, or not the Blair, the old Gables building, sorry. That's the site we're looking at here with this. Okay, what we have to give. So each of these we have to give and what we get. Developers will need assistance to make this project work. Without help, the development costs would require average rents of $22,450 a month for the developer and investors to break even. Even households that can afford these prices, those with incomes of $95,000 or more, are unlikely to be willing to pay this much in downtown Altoona. Not yet. In order to lower the average rent to a more manageable $1,850 a month and to increase the willingness of future renters to be tenants along 12th Avenue, the developers seek the following. A deal with the Altoona Parking Authority to purchase the lot for only $10,000 to keep acquisition costs low. The public parking spaces would not be replaced It would be absorbed by surplus capacity in the Altoona Transportation Center garage. A $5 million economic development grant from a combination of city, county, and state sources to support downtown revitalization. For the state to participate, half of the grant will be covered by the city and county. A commitment from the city of Altoona to invest $1 million from bond sales into streetscape upgrades on 12th Avenue between 17th and 11th Streets, and a commitment from the city and PennDOT to convert 12th and 11th Avenues through downtown into two-way streets by 2030 to promote walkability. What we would get, 94 additional market rate rental units in the heart of downtown, putting $10 million in annual household income close to downtown restaurants and services. Housing to attract and retain young adults, healthcare workers, and empty nest seniors. A $25.5 million development added to the tax rolls. Downtown streetscapes that are more visually appealing, and pedestrian friendly. And again, I'll emphasize that this is hypothetical. You say yes or no to the proposal individually.
I say no.
Okay, and why?
Number one, you're going to be placing a lot of people for parking, even though you're providing people parking that are going to rent there. But where are the other people going to park? You're going to be back in the same situation you were in the 60s, when businesses had to leave downtown and go to malls because the downtown could not accommodate the parking. Number two, you talk about, oh, it's going to increase business for restaurants. It won't, because those apartments are going to have their own kitchens. Those people are going to feel more comfortable eating at home than they will, because one of the big factors is, if you look down at the towers, those elderly in there, they all stay in their apartments. They don't go to the restaurants. You know, Sheffrey's, remember Sheffrey's? It's right across there. And none of the retirees would go over there to eat because they had their own kitchens. So I think, you know, it sounds nice, but I don't think that it all works. And the parking garage is great, except for people like me that have trucks, can't get them in there. So where am I going to park?
It
Another
ignores the
parking
fact,
situation
ignores
there.
the fact.
On that picture, there's a big white building. Originally, that was a parking lot, or parking for Penn Alto. Quinta City managed to get that and use that parking for the residents and give them covered parking and somehow give parking to the people downtown underneath their property, or vice versa.
I mean, they've had quite a few studies for downtown, and one of the big things that keeps coming out of it is downtown needs a parking garage. They said that for years. But because of this, the investment, the city doesn't want to get into it.
I have a question. A $27 million development adds back to the tax rolls. How many years does it take to pay back that $1 million and $5 million grant?
Well,
Is there a formula for that, or?
It depends on what you're charging for taxes.
yeah, whether it's a grant or whether it's an actual loan, too.
It also depends on what the value of the property is afterwards. Just because they're putting $27.5 million into it doesn't mean that's what the assessed value will be at the end. So you take the final assessed value and then you multiply it by your tax rate. They'll give you what you're getting every year, and then you just add to that. Of course, you have other factors that play into there as well. Not every dollar you're going to charge in taxes on that is going to go directly to pay off that loan immediately.
Just a question, not a comment, but question on the parking issue. What is the status of that garage / parking area that's across on 12th Street there? That's part of the
Still
Gables company.
condemned.
Still condemned. So that has to come down. It can't be rehabbed or anything. It has to come
I'm
down
not sure where that stands.
because I agree with your. I see what you're saying is that one of the things that really defeats doing anything in some of these downtowns is have to go and search for a parking space.
Well, that's what killed it in the 60s.
Yeah, and that seems to be an issue, but no matter, it's still an issue, but again, yeah,
I mean, I'd love to see that kind of development downtown. But when
and that,
you-
whether that particular site is the proper site for it is another question. It would be an issue. Is that parking, is that space more valuable for, as available parking for the downtown, or is it another development? I don't know.
So you're leading me into the second part of the red there. So you'd love to see that kind of development downtown. And the second part there is what would move it to a yes.
It ignores the fact that you can build a parking garage, 2 parking garages, leave the existing one, build one on top and keep going up. So, and anything dealing with the downtown is a study in desperation of trying to save it. And as Nick says, some of the things are ridiculous, some of them are not. It's just a constant struggle to figure a way to have it continue, even at the rate it is now. Right now, the greatest asset is what's his name? Chris Cook. It's Chris Cook's development. But he may be overextending himself, so I don't know. The only thing you can do is watch and hope that something good comes out of it.
well, even if you take a look at the Brett building, how many years did it take for that to get, people living in that? I had one of the very first apartments in there. And it sat, I think it was me and 2 other families that lived in there. For years, the place was empty. And it was all because they had this little parking area. And the rents were outrageous because, the owner, he had quite a bill to pay. So you had high rents and insufficient parking. So it sat there for years. I mean, that development had to have lost money. I mean, now I think they have more of the apartments rented, and they were really nice apartments. Except for the fact that they were all electric, and your electric bill was well over $300 a month. Because in the summer you had air conditioning, and in the winter you had electric heat, and those high ceilings, unless you had a balloon, you didn't get any heat on the floor. But I mean, I love the idea, but there's a lot of issues there that killed downtown in the 60s that needs to be looked at before something like that would go through.
I see the first question asked is what makes other downtowns successful in this day and age, and it's, it depends on the catch base and the people that come into the town. Like in bigger cities, you get more people and you get more shopping opportunities. The thing that makes a downtown come alive is people. So how do you bring people into the downtown? How do you get?
Well, I can tell you one development. You build a parking garage where on the first floor you have commercial, and the parking's up above.
That's a concept.
There you're actually combining 2 things, 2 functions. You're accomplishing the parking issue, plus you're also bringing in the commercial.
I think one of the model I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
One of the model communities I think has been very successful is Morristown, New Jersey. It's just like our town. It's just like our small towns here. They figured out how to build parking behind all the shops. So that there's a continuous tree-lined parking lots. That go behind all the shops, so people can come into town and go directly from their cars through a little alleyway onto into an active street. That makes that successful, and I think it could be done in communities like Holidays, for example. Like if all the lots were cleared somewhat behind the commercial building strips, and people will be able to park there, and it will work very similar to the way Logan Town Center works. People want to be able to drive up and walk down, through an arcade of buildings and go shopping. So if we could make Hollidaysburg, for example, or Altoona similar to the concept of Logan Town Center and bring in more higher quality, maybe even name brand stores, then people will come in there and that will generate traffic. So my theory is that it's pedestrian traffic that will make the downtown come alive, and I'm not sure that by building this apartment building, that's going to generate more pedestrian traffic. The idea is to bring people outside the community in to create more pedestrian traffic. So I propose no for this development. And I say, what would I do to move it? I'd say create linear parking structures, easy to access, and bring in more, to take that grant money to bring in Boscov's downtown, or Dick's Sporting Goods downtown, or all the same kind of shops that are in Logan Town Center.
Well, there again, if you look at Logan Town Center, what does Logan Town Center have?
Well,
Parking.
whatever it has
Parking.
brings people. It has
They got-
parking, right. So we would just do it in reverse. Instead of having a central parking lot, we could rework our communities to have parking lots
Well,
behind the buildings.
now you're faced with another problem when you talk about downtown, topography.
Topography.
Yes.
It's not
You're gonna be building parking lots where?
Well, I don't know how.
I mean,
they-
you got streets that are like this.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
I think part of the when you start to look at when I look at a downtown things, I look at two things. One, okay, there has to be parking, but in order to utilize the parking, for me, for coming from an outsider, there has to be a reason to go downtown to need the parking.
But see, as an engineer,
But that's
this
see, that's
is
kind
where
of,
you're good, because you're thinking of what brings me to downtown, but where do I park?
yeah. I mean, that's
But
it's kind of
if you can develop something that combines both of those,
yeah. But the issue I'm saying is, it depends. It seems to me whether you do it, what you're saying, and that seems like a good solution to this issue. But it's like, what comes first, the cart or the horse? It's you gotta do.
well, it's kind of like the field of dreams.
yeah. You gotta
You
do
build it, and they will come.
and that's got to take somebody's got to step up.
Well, somebody's going to have some vision.
Well, and they're gonna have to have some money too.
Well,
Well, once you got the vision, I'm sure you could probably find the money somewhere.
Well, I mean, that's been the issue I've said right along with, if you start to look at some of these small communities, and everybody abhors the fact that we're tearing down all these historic buildings. And what I look at, when I look at a historic building in a town, say like Tyrone or something like that, I look at it and I say, well, the municipalities don't have the funds or the access to funds that are going to let them do a redevelopment. So it has to be, the only way that some of these buildings get redeveloped and historic buildings get redeveloped in a small town is that somebody comes in and has the vision and the money to do it, and has figured out a way to make money out of it, that he can make a profit. And so if I'm a developer and I'm coming into a town and I want to preserve a historic building, what my bottom line is, okay, that's a great thing to save that building, but I've got to find a way that I can make it pay.
Well, the only problem is when developers come in, the last thing they're going to look at is the historical building.
Yeah.
Because the regulations on historical buildings and the money you have to put into it just to keep that historical view is incredible.
Well, I know Tyrone has lost at least 3 buildings that way
Yeah.
that were very nice buildings historically, but and one of them I know went through about at least three or four different owners trying to figure out how to do it.
Well, the only way you're going to be able
There's-
to do something like that,
Somebody has to figure a way to make money. They can make a profit.
well, the only way you're going to be able to do that is if the government is going to insist that that's a historical building, then the government should put up the funds to maintain that as a historical building and let the developer develop the inside. And then that way the developer isn't burdened with that cost,
I
although
think
the taxpayer is.
well, they give tax credits for doing historic preservation.
I think we're moving into the item 2 here on the agenda, kind of by default. But I think
I want to add something to downtown. One of the things that destroyed downtown was PennDOT.
well, I mean,
The expressway to nowhere, which were closed down to 40 miles an hour and allowed parking on one of the lanes, you would have an improvement. And you could also remove all the underground territories that have been chained off to keep the bums out.
Well, if that would have been continued out the way it was supposed to have been, you would have lost a athletic field. Because it was supposed to go clean out the Mill Run. So you would have lost that beautiful baseball diamond and stuff. All that would have been gone.
Was
All
it
right.
tied
I
together?
think,
They actually developed that project because of the coal trucks. They wanted to get the coal trucks and that from going down, 36 and that into downtown and getting stuck under the culverts and stuff.
I think we need to move ahead. I think, I'd like to say continue, and I think we can, but I think we need, so this meeting doesn't go on forever, we need to move it. We need to
Second
move ahead.
proposal, again, theoretical. Knickerbocker, an Altoona native, made a fortune in 2017 when she sold her share of a Silicon Valley company that specialized in artificial intelligence research. Since then, she has used a portion of her windfall to finance one of her passions, fixing up old buildings. With several successful projects in California and New Jersey under her belt, she's turned her attention to her hometown and the Knickerbocker Historic District, which she has always admired. Proposed project. Over the past 2 years, the developer has signed purchase options with owners of 30 row houses in the Knickerbocker Historic District, or roughly 30% of the properties there. 60% of the purchase options are with landlords. The developer proposes to execute the purchase options over a 3-year period and spend an average of $125,000 per row house on historically sensitive renovations to make the row houses marketable for middle and upper income home buyers. The renovation costs will be held down by her ability to group the projects and achieve economies of scale. The projected cost, including acquisition, is $5.5 million. For this plan to be even modestly profitable, the developer will need the renovated row houses to sell for at least $225,000, which is affordable to households earning at least $75,000. But the developer recognizes that these households are unlikely to have confidence in this neighborhood and pay that much unless other improvements are made in the streets and nearby public spaces. We get into that again. This is the Knickerbocker area. 6th Avenue is up there on the right, going out towards like 84 Lumber and all. The road at the bottom that goes off to the right goes up the hill. ABCD is down sort of off the edge there. The road to the left goes out to Logan Boulevard. So that's the Knickerbocker. Right about where the 6 is where the Knickerbocker sign is. What we need to give to make the neighborhood and its surroundings more attractive to home buyers. The developer is holding off on executing her purchase options until she has secured the following commitments from the city. Repave the streets fronting the neighborhood's row houses, fix broken sidewalks, plant trees where possible, invest in better street lighting, and make other necessary upgrades to outdated infrastructure. These improvements are projected to cost $1 million. Work with PennDOT to make the intersection of 6th Avenue and Bergoon and adjacent areas along 6th Avenue more pedestrian-friendly and aesthetically pleasing with better crosswalks, lighting, and beautification. These projects are expected to cost around $500,000. Invest $1.5 million at Highland Park, only 1 block to the south, to improve paths, facilities, lighting, signage, stone walls, and tree plantings. What they would get: 30 historic row houses that are renovated and offer unique products for home buyers in the regional housing market. A greater sense of confidence for property owners within a quarter mile of these investments. Improved streets and a sense of place in a historic neighborhood that abuts healthy neighborhoods to the south. A major investment in Altoona's best neighborhood park. Yes or no?
Yes,
And why?
and I'll tell you why. Especially my rant last month about the city needing to invest in its infrastructure. That's what it needs to do. It needs to invest in its infrastructure and have developments like this go forward. That would be a big boom for that neighborhood, to get them, all redone like that. Because that's the only way you can do the Knickerbockers. You have to have that whole section to complete it. But I think that the city needs to start stepping up with these projects and start investing in their infrastructure.
I like the idea of upgrading the Knickerbockers because it's it's like a gateway, structure that you see coming into the city. It's highly prominent, it's historical.
Well, it does have
good
history.
solid houses.
It does have history. The guy that designed them was from Philadelphia. I mean, it is a historical, basically to me, it's a historical site. That's like falling water.
Well, a few left too.
And we have this right here in the city, and it's a shame that it's gone to the condition it's gone. And the city should be investing in it. Like they should be investing in all of the city, but,
I like the idea.
Number 3, competing for Costco. Costco is America's 12th fastest growing retailer in 2023 and is looking to build a wholesale club in either Altoona or State College. The location would be its first between Harrisburg and Pittsburgh. The competition is close. State College has higher income levels, which is appealing to Costco. Altoona, meanwhile, has the potential to draw from a wider market territory that includes State College, Johnstown, Indiana, and a number of smaller markets. Costco's choice will come down to the willingness of the host community to facilitate a smooth and cost-effective development process. Rose Project. Costco's Altoona option involves land between West Plank Road and Logan Boulevard, an area just inside the city line now occupied primarily by a First Energy Operations Center. First Energy sees this as an opportunity to right-size and modernize its footprint by selling and then moving to a smaller property it owns in Allegheny Township. Following site acquisition and clearance, Costco proposes to build a 168,000 square foot wholesale club towards West Plank Road with 850 parking spaces, 16 pump gas station. Of the parking spaces, 30 will be accessible to electric charging kiosks. The portion of the site closest to Logan Boulevard will include a 20,000 square foot REI co-op location, camping gear and outdoor apparel, and space for 2 other small retail service outlets that have yet to be identified. REI also intends to join Costco if it chooses State College over Altoona. This is where we're looking. The triangular parcel on the left is where Morningside Plaza. You kind of dimmed the aerial photography and left the site a little brighter there where the arrow is. So that's where we're looking. It goes out to both roads, right behind the new Barnes shopping area there. So that's where you're looking. What we need to give. To manage its development costs and risks, Costco's real estate subsidiary is seeking the following from the City of Altoona and its partners. If all 3 commitments can be made, Altoona will have slightly better than even odds of getting the project. 100% coverage of demolition and clearance costs estimated to be around $1.5 million. First Energy would cover any necessary environmental cleanup as part of its real estate negotiation with Costco. 100% coverage of new infrastructure to serve the site, including the intersection upgrades at West Plank Road and Calder Street, a new right-hand turn lane northbound on West Plank, and coverage of all necessary sewer and water upgrades. Estimated cost $1.5 million. 100% abatement of city, county, and school property taxes for the first 5 years after the project's completion, and a 50% abatement for years 6 through 10. Total forgiven property tax revenues are estimated to be $2.25 million. What the community would get: 2 marquee retailers to add to the region's offerings, which would conveniently serve locals and draw additional shoppers from all directions. Redevelopment of a few aging properties on underutilized land next to the I-99 Plank Road interchange, a boost in local income and sales taxes, 200 new jobs full and part-time with average pay of $20 an hour. Again, hypothetical, just to emphasize that. Yes or no?
no,
And why?
we have retail space that's sitting vacant. Nobody wants to utilize it. So you can build whatever you want to build, but it's not going to succeed because now everybody's buying on the internet. A lot of your major stores are closing because of that. So, I mean, you got the Sears space sitting over there totally vacant. Why can't that be utilized?
They need bigger space than that, don't they? Sears building.
I'm not sure how big it is.
100.
Well,
Oh, this is
The Sears, this is 168.
I think the size of this, there's nothing in Altoona that would accommodate their needs.
Well, I don't know, the mall's pretty big.
Well, they have to
And the
take-
mall's not as full as it used to be.
No, it's,
Isn't
Can't
this
tell you the last time.
in the floodplain? Yeah, I was gonna say, this is a very poor drainage, very prone area. Additional development there, especially development of that size, would be,
challenging.
to say the least.
Had to build a big tank.
Well, I mean, here we go again. I mean,
Put the tank in the
I
ground
know
and build
that's
the
the,
building on
you know,
top
that
of
was
the
the
tank.
problem the people behind with the Brush Run, the people behind behind Logan Valley Mall, that neighborhood back there with the flooding. It was that we put all that impervious parking space on that.
Well,
on
that and they closed in the stream.
Yeah, and that's it.
My grandfather, when that first sold, could have bought that land for 50 cents an acre. The reason why my grandmother talked him out of it was because it was all swamp.
Yeah. That's the way my dad worked down at Bedford or down at Breezewood on the Turnpike in the 30s. And he said he could have bought the whole damn thing down there for $5,000, but he didn't have $5,000. So, he could own Breezewood for that kind of money at that point, and he didn't have the money.
I mean, aside from development in that area specifically, I think generally the idea is good. I think bringing those two businesses to the area would be huge. I'm not sure if you all are familiar with REI or Costco, but they are huge retailers nationwide, and I think that like people, I live in Johnstown, people drive to Costco in Pittsburgh just like 2 hours to go there. And same with REI, I think if we had something like that in the area, it would be a really huge attractor or an additional attractor. I do think, and especially a boost, as it says, in jobs, at well-paying jobs too. However, I do have concerns specifically with such a large development in that location. It looks like impervious surface already. I don't know what the site is currently or if it said that, but my concerns aren't with bringing the development here. It would only be with the location that was chosen, and that's for stormwater reasons.
Okay.
So the city's gonna spend how much? Could you scroll down a little bit, please? The city's gonna spend $3 million.
3 million and lose 2.5 and 2.25 million in tax revenue.
We're gonna lose 2.25
Give
million.
away 2.25 million in tax revenue
For 10 years, basically,
over 10 years.
over 10.
And why would the city want to invest in this? Just to make it more convenient for them for traffic and to get in and out of the
More foot
building?
traffic.
But to provide the jobs.
Provide jobs.
I think in this scenario specifically, it's competitive. The alternative is not either they develop here or they don't. The alternative is that traffic goes to State College because Costco, and it seemed REI had an agreement with Costco that they'll go where they go. Well, if Costco chooses to go to State College, that draws everything to State College rather than drawing it to Altoona. And so Altoona would lose out on everybody leaving Altoona, taking their business from Altoona, driving to State College to go to these places. So I think there is incentive overall for the city to want to do that over having, if they're competing with State College in that way.
Well, is
So we
State
get
College
sales
gonna
tax.
lose the 5.5 million?
And these people coming from State College are also spending money in restaurants and other places too, right? So we get sales tax from all this. We know what that equates to. We don't even know. Do we get sales tax? We don't. So all we're getting is people coming into the area. I think it's a good thing that there's more opportunities for people to shop, because I think that was one of the big drawbacks for many years. People wouldn't come to this area because there wasn't enough places for them to buy things. On the flip side, like, how many consumer products can we absorb here, you know, and are these really good paying jobs? And we can't really fill the jobs we have, you know, right now. And does somebody want to move to this area because they would get a retail store, you know, job that pays pays a lot less? I don't know if that's. And then I think these corporations are so big that they can afford, you know, to do the improvements or whatever they need to make their shops work better. So I'm kind of on the fence. I'd say that would be. I don't think it would be a good investment for the community.
I look at it philosophically. Doing nothing is exactly guaranteed that's what will happen.
Yeah, doing nothing.
Another way of saying that is nobody will invest in you unless you invest in yourself.
Good question.
I mean, if we were looking at, this site and we didn't have other places that were empty.
Yeah.
But we have other places that are empty.
You got the Kmart across
Yeah, Kmart.
Yeah.
I think not the Kmart. I think though.
Well, the Kmart building would have to be torn down and the new building would have to be built.
I think the mall, as your previous suggestion, was a great idea. I actually disagree with the notion that people are going online now for the convenience of it. While that is the case, I think since post-pandemic, people have been like itching to get back out there, to go out and go shopping, go for a shopping trip again. But they're finding that these retail stores are really not having a lot in store because everything's being carried online. So I think encouraging more traffic into the mall, which is very sad and depleting right now, I think would be the kind of.
Well, there's another
I'm not
factor
sure.
that you're not calculating into your theory, and it's Target has brought this up. They're closing a lot of their stores because of thefts, and a lot of companies are looking at having stores out there in certain areas. Creates a lot of theft for them and a lot of loss. So that's another factor that we got to also realize. And for the city to be putting up $5.5 million for something like that when we have space available, I think is the wrong idea. Granted, Costco's may be a wonderful company. We would love to have them here. We would love to have the people, but I don't think, the taxpayers losing $5.5 million to bring them here is a good idea.
Pardon me. Three proposals presented here are very different. While they each would require specific public use, they range from $3 million to $6 million. The gets are harder to quantify. As individuals, rank the three proposals in order of their worthiness or public support from most worthy to least worthy. For the whole group, which proposal was ranked highest by the most people?
Sounds like the Knickerbocker was a very positive thing for this.
I'd say Knickerbocker.
Yeah.
Everybody liked the Knickerbocker. What about the other two? For apartments downtown or the Costco out on Boulevard?
Well, the one downtown gives us something we don't have, which is housing. And you think
Downtown
about
has
doing-
housing.
Huh?
Downtown has housing. Matter of fact,
Gives us more housing, which is one of our big.
93 market rate units is unbelievable. That's
Yeah.
massive,
Yeah.
massive.
I mean, and that's
One
great.
of our issues, though.
That's great, but there's issues. There's issues when
There's
you
issues
bring it
in stepping out this door here too. But,
Well, especially if you can get out the door.
Yeah,
Yeah, well,
We couldn't get in.
that's why I said that way. But yeah, I mean, I think that's something that desperately needed in every study we've done is that kind of thing. I know parking's a big issue. We got the railroad on one side and the hill on the other side, so we can't go that much ways. We have to go out farther that way. And you think about that, there is places to put parking out that way.
The other place to put parking would be underneath.
Well, that's true
Yeah,
too. Yeah.
Well, that would be a problem in downtown.
Also,
I still, every time
It's
we
all
say
filled.
about downtown, I still argue that the reason to do things and have things downtown, it's the cart and horse. If you're gonna attract people in, they gotta have a reason to come in. And I mean, that's kind of the cart and the horse type thing. Which one do you do first? And I think you're
Well,
right.
the thing of it is,
You
if you're
gotta do
gonna,
it.
if
It's
you're going
almost
to
like if they
attract
build
people
it, they
to come
come.
in, you're going to have some place for them to park.
You gotta,
So if they have no place to park, they're going to come in and go out.
and so it's a question of,
It's a,
So what do you do first? And I
yeah,
think-
which comes first, the chicken or
you,
the egg?
you
So
gotta,
for
whatever it
downtown
is, you
work,
gotta
we
take
need to have
a
an
leap
parking.
somewhere along.
But I think if you can come up with a development that takes care of both situations comfortably, then I think you got a winner.
The downtown one, we just have to find parking, and is that impossible? The answer is no.
Well, it's not impossible, it's just that the municipality doesn't want to put up the
Well,
funds.
they're starting to step forward here, so we have to realize that we're trying to help them step forward. Is what I'm saying.
Yeah, okay, let's,
I think they have some answers.
I'm saying, it looks like two is the clear winner, people will like that, and probably it's, I'm looking at saying it's a tie between 1 and 3, and what do you do? I think if I had to put a preference on, I would put the downtown above a development on that site, particularly the site they're at. Not so much what they plan to do, but I think
Nice area of space there.
yeah, it's a lot of space, and I just question how you move ahead or which one you do first. Well, that's.
Well, I think-
I agree that there seems to be there's a lot of retail sources, a lot of space available, but it seems like some of it is also, when you're looking, it's not in the right niche, if you want to say that. It's in the, we're looking at that middle housing group that we're lacking, and some of the other things. But again, some of the things like how do you start? Where do you target that? How do you target some of these areas?
Well, I think the downtown project would be a go if they wouldn't focus on putting the residential in it, because we have enough residential downtown. We need commercial.
Yeah.
That's your draw. That's what gets people downtown. So if they can combine that and parking,
Then
got a winner.
the residential stuff will follow. I mean, that's
well, the residential stuff will follow because we have units downtown for rent. And matter of fact, they're putting in more in that new development that they're doing downtown.
Yeah. The only question is, are they in the right niche, right income level type?
Well, then that's going to depend on the investment, but
Yeah.
that's the unfortunate side of it.
All right, I think
I've got one thing to slip in, a 13 negative A or something. We had applied back in June or September, for a stormwater planning grant. We were supposed to know in the middle of September as to whether we were funded or not. We have not yet heard as from the EP as to whether we're funded on that. As a reminder, that would be the first step in a 3-step process to update the stormwater modeling, update all the ordinances, the standards, the whole 9 yards. Phase 1 is basically to plan on what you're going to plan. It's basically a 5-figure grant. It identifies the different issues that are out there, the potential steps to undertake to address those issues. In Phase 2, Phase 2 is the development of the model and the ordinances. That's a 6-figure exercise. And then Phase 3 is getting the ordinances adopted by all the municipalities and helping them start to implement them. So once a stormwater plan is in place for a particular area, the constituent municipalities have to adopt an ordinance. And right now, the only areas that we have are the Beaver Dam Branch, which is basically Hollidaysburg, Allegheny, part of Blair, Altoona, and part of Altoona and part of Logan. And then a very small part of the Bob's Creek, which is actually the top end of the Racetown Branch, which is essentially part of Juniata and Greenfield Townships. So the rest of the county technically has no stormwater planning on it yet. And that's one of the big reasons why we applied for the grant, was to get that done. They finally reopened the funding after 20 years, and it's time to get it done.
All right. I guess we've kind of combined 12 and 13 there, but does any planning commission members have anything other than anything beyond what we've talked about on with that altogether Altoona? Is there any other issues there? I think I would say one of the things we've talked about is, and we've said about making the that some of the blight issue is more of it's a public issue on things like street conditions and curbing and sidewalks and things. I would say that in Blair County, and particularly you get out into the smaller communities, that one of the third rails of politics in Blair County is sidewalks, conditions of sidewalks, who's responsible for them, who maintains them, who installs them, who does what. And some of it is the fact that is it the homeowner, and then if that's the case, then it devolves down to the political will of the municipality to do something to make homeowners do something. And I don't. That's like I said. That's the third rail of local politics in a lot of the small communities. Is that even though the sidewalks look horrible and that the political will to make the resident do it is not there, and the planning funds to do it by the municipality is not there. So it's a real problem. So I think that that would go a long way. Just addressing the sidewalk issues and the street issues would go a long way to making a lot of these municipalities look 100% better. Would go a long way to doing that.
One of the ways to deal with a sidewalk issue is to build it publicly and charge it over a period of years to the property tax.
Yeah,
Add it to the property tax.
and they've done, in some instances, they've done that. The only with liens and that on properties. The only thing that I've seen that really has made people do their sidewalks has been maybe they want to upgrade. Maybe they want to do something on their own. But there's ordinances about what they can do and how to do it. But the only thing I've seen that really triggers them is if the homeowner's insurance comes through, they've had some kind of tripping episode or something on it where probably somebody's fallen on their property because of the sidewalks, and their homeowner's insurance comes through and says, fix your sidewalks or we're going to cancel your insurance. And that's one of the few things I've seen that's the only real stick that's made people do things. The rest, most of the things I've seen is most people don't want to invest. They think the sidewalk is not their responsibility.
Sidewalks, if the city owns the trees, and the city upheaves those sidewalks, who's the problem there? That's the problem.
That's one of the issues.
That's the
The
same
property owner says, look, that's out in your right of way. I don't mind taking care of it, but why do I have to replace it?
Yeah,
And most of that you see is trees. Trees do a lot of that.
Well, yeah,
well,
like
and a lot of it.
7th and 8th Streets, when they put those trees in, they put the wrong trees in, and it popped up the sidewalks. And of course, the homeowner isn't going to fix it. That's an expense.
Yep.
Well,
in particular, then the other thing is it comes down to if it's rental property, then the landlord he's got reluctance to spend any more than he has to.
anymore, a lot of the landlords are starting to sign these agreements with their tenants, where the tenants is responsible for maintenance.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, moving right ahead. I've said my thing on that. I think that, you know, somewhere along the line, if we could just address, in the whole county-wide area, if we could just address some of the sidewalk issues, it would go a long way to making things look a hell of a
Well,
lot
that's
better.
why, you know,
Make things
I've,
look a
I've
lot
always
better.
said that, you know, when we get these projects in here, we should put in, you know, put your sidewalk in.
Well, and I think that's, I think
realize
that's,
that
I think you're right. I think it's right in the sense that you say that you do this because it's one of, it's the horse in the cart thing.
and I
You
realize
gotta
that there's-
start somewhere.
Yeah, you gotta start somewhere, and I realize that there's areas like out in farm areas and stuff, you're not gonna have sidewalks put in,
No.
you know. But, you know, stuff that's closer to, you know, cities and stuff, and where there's major arteries and stuff, they should have sidewalks.
Hmm.
There should be provisions for people to walk along a highway or a roadway.
All right, let's move ahead so we can get home.
Okay, you're up. I have nothing.
Walt, you have nothing to say. Hey.
I'm already over time.
Okay, we've got a list of upcoming events for anybody who's interested there. We also have an announcement for the next meeting. If there are no other items, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
We're out of here. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Do we not need a second?
Second.
There it is. There it is.